Certain parts of this Star Wars film sounded and looked a lot like if we were trying to go and get President Trump out of the White House to arrest him. That's probably how he would react with it being like Palpatine. That's some of the feelings I got from it, but this felt like a really big Republican movie in some way.
I don't. Okay.
Let's go get Palpatine.
A piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do! You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
There's no crying in baseball! This is wrong, bitch. Hey, the Schwartz be with you.
I am the father.
Get you, my pretty.
Take your stinking paws off me.
May the force be with you.
Here's Johnny.
What up? Happy Tuesday, movie lovers. Welcome to another episode of the Cinemen Movie Podcast. This is episode 349. I'm jumping ahead of myself. 349. It is May 20th, 2025, and we are talking the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 3,
Damn,
Revenge
date of release.
Revenge of the Sith. Who does that? Like, how does Zach, do these schedules just pop up randomly, or who puts these things together?
Hey, we get paid the big bucks to always go around to get 20th anniversaries on the schedule, so we planned this because we were going to do this last year, if you remember, and I said, let's just hold off for this year for the 20th. So you're like, okay.
So far, the biggest mistake I've seen with them re-releasing Star Wars is that they only released it for a few days when they could have released it and they could have made more and more bank, because it made, what, $50 million opening weekend? And then they were like, by Thursday, they were like, we're pulling it. I'm like, what?
Not to mention next month, June schedule just got released. We'll talk about that a little bit later. June schedule, we're doing almost to the exact day again, the 30th anniversary of Batman Forever.
Ooh.
So I can't believe that movie turns 30.
Don't you feel old now?
I do. I remember seeing that in the theater. And then next week is our huge Memorial Day episode. This is like our, I think it's 6th or 7th year anniversary of the Memorial Day episodes. We pick a war movie, or we have a war movie vote, and we hang out, talk about some barbecue items, and review a war movie. So, but before we get into that, Zach, sir, you go first. How was your week? Zach's frozen. Ed, what about you?
Work. Been going down to Ardmore on a contract, so trying to learn what I can, trying to take a test soon so I can get licensed and all that good stuff. And
nice. Ardmore, that's pretty close to Texas.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Go a little bit further, you're going to become a Texan.
Holy
We got two Zachs.
There's two Zachs.
The multiverse of Zach. Sorry.
It kind of starts to smell once you start getting down there.
Don't talk about Zach that way. Zach, how was your week?
It's going pretty good. Starting today, I'm off. I don't go back to work till next Wednesday, so I'm excited.
Oh, good for you. So your watch list next week is going to be like as big as the Titanic.
I ain't doing nothing all week. So hey, if you need a movie going, buddy, I'd like to go see some movies.
There you go.
Go see the new Minecraft.
That's pretty.
That's
pretty good.
Out during that movie.
I didn't. I was excited.
Fucking chicken jockey and shit. Oh fuck, he's out again. See, I asked him to hang out, and he's all like, "Nope, I'm out. Screw this. I'm done. I don't want friends." Said, no.
Fucking no, I wanted to go see that Final Destination Bloodlines.
It is real good.
Yeah.
Jay, what about you? How's your week?
It's been real good. But I don't know if I should do my recent watches just yet, or we just tell you my week. But hey, it's been good.
We're getting ready to get into that. But before we do, last week's episode, we talked all about Thunderbolts, the latest movie in the MCU universe. Hashtag, go check it out.
Hashtag New Avengers.
Yeah, whether you call it Thunderbolts or the New Avengers, go check it out. We had a fun conversation all about the MCU, where it's going, and what's next as far as the Fantastic Four go. Ed, if they want to find any of those links in social media, how do they find those links?
Right down here, it's on the screen for you people out there in view vision. For you people out there in the listening audio world, it is facebook.com/the Cinemen Movie Podcast. That is TheCinemenMoviePodcast. Instagram /the Cinemen Movie Podcast as well. X /CINEMEN405. And the email is at cinemen921@gmail.com. Go ahead and leave us a message, leave us a suggestion. Tell us what you love. Tell us who you hate. It is what it is.
Send news. Never mind.
Noodles. We love noodles.
Yes, send noodles.
Let's get ready to get into some recent watches. Jay, you want to start us off? Kick us off. I know you can't wait to talk about yours.
It hasn't been much, but I did go through it. I'm now anticipating the final season of Big Mouth. I went through and rewatched all that.
Oh my god!
Watched Human Resources. The final season comes May 23rd. See, I said Big Mouth. He knew exactly what the hell I'm talking about. I've had to explain this show to Juan a couple times, and it's raunchy. It is.
You take it and you rub it just like
what the fuck?
Yeah, it is a very, very raunchy show. It's not for kids, so don't ever set your kids in front of this show thinking that everything's going to be all right.
It makes South Park look tame.
And that's exactly how I try to explain it to Juan. I was like, dude, it makes South Park just seem tame as hell. And I watched the new Final Destination film. I actually really, really enjoyed that. We went and seen Thunderbolts again, I watched that again. I watched Beetlejuice again. I don't know what it is about that movie, but I enjoy the hell out of that movie. Today, I sat down and watched the previous Mission Impossible to be ready for this next one. And I've seen the first hour and 30 minutes of the newest one already. There's the great copy already that I've been watching, and it does help to have watched the sixth one for sure. Or the previous one. So
that's how you know when you start losing count of how many there are. I don't get me wrong, I enjoy Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movies, but I really do hope Final Reckoning is the final Mission Impossible movie.
It's around 4 through 7 is when I get mixed up. Like I think Cavill's in 6. The 7th one is the one with the train. And Haley Atwell from Captain America, and then this is the 8th one.
Tom Cruise.
5, I get kind of confused.
Tom Cruise is going to do 15 of them bitches, and the only reason I say that is because he's going to do them as long as he can wear that thong to do his damn stunts and shit.
Did you guys see? There was a new
running in this movie.
There was a new interview that said Tom Cruise says that he just enjoys acting so much that he wants to retire and die acting, that he's going to act up all the way up into his hundreds.
I think everybody can make it. The one thing I found interesting about how Haley Atwell, she's the one that plays the lead female character in the last one and in this one. She was like, I didn't get a script. I got these action sequences, and then they build up the story and the storyline around what the character's going to say and everything around these set pieces. Like Tom Cruise and I drive down the street, handcuffed together. Well, how does that intertwine with the rest of the movie? And I found that very interesting. And they just kind of piece it all together as they go along.
You have anything else you want to recommend or go CJ?
Everything I said, go see. Everything was good. Except Big Mouth, if you're if you're easily offended, do not watch it.
I'm glad you
Little
put some
children.
more. I'm glad you put some more light on Beetlejuice, because I feel like that movie does not get enough recognition.
Hey, respect on Bob. Rest in peace. You're the real one, Bob.
Wait, are we talking about Bob from Thunderbolts?
Nope.
No, Bob from
I know.
Beetlejuice.
I know who we're talking about.
There's a lot of Bobs
not
out there.
Man,
Zach, what about
he got done?
What about you, Zach? Anything out?
Yeah, I'm gonna rapid fire through mine. I did finish all the Mission Impossible movies, kind of like Jay. Rogue Nation, Fallout, and Dead Reckoning. I am seeing the Final Reckoning this Thursday IMAX showing.
Are you okay?
I'm kind of glad you're on this episode, Ed. I finished reading Order of the Phoenix. Took 3 damn years to read that damn book, and finally
took me 9 months.
That movie, that's a whole nother conversation, but the movie, I still like the movie version of it, but it's very much like a bullet point version of the story, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe one day we should dive back into the movies. They're right here.
I'm down for that.
The book is very dry, very thorough, very encompassing of any and everything, especially Grimwald Place. So
yeah,
it's
well, there's a lot in the book that doesn't. In my personal, it has nothing to do with like the overarching story.
They got rid of Spew. They got rid of the big ass battle in the Ministry of Magic. Whenever they found all it, yeah, they butchered the book. The book that butchered the most, though, is the fourth one. I'm sorry. That one was absolutely butchered.
Yeah, because they did a lot of unnecessary stuff, and they could have gone ahead and put the full maze in, because I do think that it was just kind of stupid with the maze. Like, you could have included a phoenix. You could have included, some of the stuff that they did in that just to lead up to the actual cup being caught. But it is what it is. But no, legitimately, like the shortest time I had for reading any of those books was 14 hours with Deathly Hallows, and then the longest time was Order of the Phoenix with 9 months.
Yeah,
like there was a 2 or 3 month period where I just stopped at 400 pages or so.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I had to take breaks in between it because it just took forever.
Like, dude, reading The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings or whatever have you was easier than reading that one, to be honest.
Lord of the Rings took me about 3 months to read.
A Minecraft movie, went and saw that. The Legend of Ochi, which is like an A24. It's their version of doing like ET, essentially.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean,
hell no.
I appreciate like when you have you seen it yet?
No, I was thinking about taking my daughter to go see it, because I see a lot of people in an A24 group that I'm in taking their kid, but I'm like, I don't know if she'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you would appreciate it just because they kind of go back to like practical effects and with the creatures and everything, so it's kind of cool like that. Until Dawn, which I had no expectation for that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've never played the video game, so I just went in just as watching the movie. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, honestly.
Like a virgin, touched to the very
absolutely. Went and saw the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, which was an awesome experience. 3 hours and 19 minutes.
But it's right there. It's on Blu-ray. You don't have to go see it.
Oh, it's about to get a 4K release. Thank you very much. Steelbook version. Like Jay, went and saw Final Destination Bloodlines. I think it's the best of the franchise.
You said Bloodlines. I was just acknowledging.
Very fun. It went back to basically the old formula style, and it has like a bunch of has a good setup and a good twist to it, I thought. And the Connors had their series finale a couple of weeks ago, and finally got caught up. And
yes, I watched it. I was disappointed in the ending, but hey.
Did anybody die?
No, they just said goodnight. Like John Goodman looks into the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and just tells everybody goodnight, and then gets up and goes to bed.
No, well, Jay's lying. They all die in a horrible car accident that leads to Final Destination Bloodlines. So,
fucking log truck killing them all.
I forgot to mention in my recent watches, I watched Death of a Unicorn, and
So I'd recommend.
I thought you were gonna say John Goodman looks at the camera, goes to bed, and he wakes up as Fred Flintstone.
that would have been
Lord.
a way
Breaking
better
Bad.
ending. That would have been a way better ending. Like, Wilma.
Breaking Bad type shit.
I don't know. I like the ending personally. It kind of just tied everything up in a nice bow, and it kind of like did throwbacks to the original Roseanne series. So I liked it. Go see Final Destination Bloodlines. Go see Until Dawn, and check out the Mission Impossible movies on Paramount Plus. So
Nice. I have not watched anything. I've just watched Star Wars, and I've just been zooming through The Sopranos. I'm 2 episodes away from season 6, part 1. So by the time we talk next week, I hope that I'd be done with the complete series. So,
Are you going to include the movie, or are you going to just let that slide?
I've seen the movie before, but now that I've rewatched like the complete series in its entirety for the second time, I think I'm going to go back and revisit the movie.
does the movie make a lot more sense after rewatching the series?
Yeah, because you know who everybody is, and you know where he's getting ready to. His troubled youth age, ties into
who he's gonna whack. You know what I'm saying?
So, like in the movie, he's like super super young, and from what I've been reading, his actual son is going to play Tony in a prequel TV show for HBO Max.
That is correct.
So the new TV show is going to be in between the movie and the original Sopranos. So
his rise to power.
Yeah.
So are you going to wait 2 weeks and then binge watch the series again, or are we going to do something else?
No, I'm gonna probably do something else. I think I'm getting ready to get into something else, a little bit more top secret that I think is going to go into one of our episodes in a few months. But man, I've enjoyed The Sopranos thoroughly. I can't wait to see his son going into that role in a prequel series, just to see the rise of him becoming like a soldier, and then going to a captain, and then eventually becoming the boss of the family. So, but that's been my recent watches. We can get ready to get into today's meat and potatoes of the episode. Today we're talking Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. It had a release date of May 19th, 2005, with a budget of $113 million. With recent activity, it's grossed a little over $905 million at the box office, with an IMDb rating of 7.6, Rotten Tomato scores at 79%, the Metascore is at 68%, the Letterboxd is a 4.0 out of 5. As the Clone Wars near its end, Obi-Wan Kenobi pursues a new threat while Anakin is lured in by Chancellor Palpatine into a sinister plot for galactic domination. Starring Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Samuel Jackson, Ian McDiarmid, Jimmy Smits, Frank Oz, Anthony Daniels, Christopher Lee, written and directed by George Lucas. This movie can be checked out on Disney Plus, or you can pick up some of the nice, beautiful copies that they have out there now. If you have not seen this movie, pause it, go check it out on Disney Plus. It's been out for 20 years. You've been under a rock. Where you been? Zach, we'll start with you. Do you remember the first time that you laid eyes on Episode 3, and what was it like revisiting it for the podcast?
Yeah. Let me just throw this back. I remember I laid eyes on it for the first time May 22nd of 2005. Check that out. The original ticket stub right there.
I used to do that.
Harkins. Yep.
Oh, nice.
So, I saw it in theaters. I actually saw it, I think, twice in theaters when it was released back 20 years ago. I really liked it. It kind of sparked my interest back into Star Wars up to that point. And then I'd seen it off and on. I think I rewatched it before Force Awakens came out in 2015. And then about a couple weeks ago, I went and saw it for the 20th anniversary release in 4DX. And it's still, I have some qualms with it on this last watch, but I still think that it's still a solid Star Wars movie.
Did you, since it was 4DX, did you get to smell the burning Hayden Christensen in the?
Yeah, smell-o-vision. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They released like a really and they put like skin particles in the air. It was kind of weird. So I don't know where they got it.
Some Italian sausage burning in midair.
Yeah.
I'll keep mine very short and sweet. I've seen this movie multiple times. The first time I watched it, I really, really enjoyed it. It was one of those movies that I was like, you're just you're just, ever since episode 1 came out, you're just like dying to hurry up and see episode 3 because we all know what we wanted to see. Very appreciative for that movie. This second time around, or this, multiple times around, some odd years later, it's fine.
Oh.
So, Jay?
First time I seen it, well, I actually, before I even seen it, they had at Walmart where you could buy the novelization. They still do it with all the Star Wars books and everything like that. And they had it on the shelf a week before it came out. So I picked it up and I started reading it. And I got about halfway through it before the movie came out. And that entire Coruscant section at the beginning of the movie, it took me, it's like literally like 12 or 13 chapters. It took forever and a day to get through that. Like, you're on that ship forever. And when I first finally seen it, I walked in there not expecting much because, so far I had the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones to look forward to. And so when they started out and they had the ships come over and glide down into the battle over Coruscant, and the shots were the special effects, and I was like, okay, you got me hooked this time. But as I've gotten older and I watched it for the 20th anniversary, I'm like the rest of y'all. It was good. I have some qualms with it. I even had the same qualms with it when it was released. But yeah, same.
Ed?
First time I ever watched it was, I want to say it was at the drive-in. I don't remember what played before that. Don't remember the exact day, but yeah, it wasn't too long after my birthday because this, came out just 2 days after my birthday. But
happy birthday!
Birthday happy!
But thanks, sis. But I seen it last week, Thursday of last week, and I mean, personally, this has always been my favorite one, like hands down. Because don't get me wrong, most of us, I think all of us, didn't get to grow up directly or right with the original trilogy. So, some of us were teenagers around this time. Some of us were single digit, and some of us were just, dawning on the double digit ages. But when this prequel trilogy came out, so that's one of the first things I got introduced to was Phantom Menace. And then kind of out from there, I don't remember who showed me the original trilogy. It might have been you, for that matter, one. But yeah, ever since then, it's just the original trilogy is amazing, but this one has always held a very, very high candle to me. So, yeah.
Let's get ready to get into some of the big qualms. I think one of the biggest appreciations I have for this movie 20 years later, and I think all the other Star Wars fans can finally probably say this, and it's like the lost art and the appreciation for one Hayden Christensen. I think so many people just dogged his Anakin in episode 2 and the way he probably was. Like, when this movie came out the first time around, it took 20 years later for people to probably just like appreciate his version of Anakin Skywalker.
Well, a lot of people complained that he was a whiny little bitch, and I wanted to sit there and remind people, like, so was Luke. Luke was a whiny little bitch until he found
like father, like son.
Exactly,
or like son, like father in this.
Yeah. They both just whined about stuff. Well, I want to go pick up some power converter with my friends. You're like, dude, just shut up.
I don't even think a lot of the stuff I read was about just the character personally. It was about the actor. And it's like, why do you have so much hate for the actor who's just doing the best he can to provide us his version of Anakin Skywalker. He's already got the biggest shoes in the world to fill by becoming Anakin, who's eventually going to become Darth Vader. But looking at this movie today, it's like who else would you be able to probably put in that role? And yeah, like Jay said, he was really whiny, unappreciative. But guess what? That's just the character. That's what he's supposed to do. What are some of the qualms maybe you had about the movie, Zach? We'll go round table.
I like, even like when this movie came out, I liked Hayden Christensen's performance. I think he still pulls it off even then. I just think the biggest problem for me is just the dialogue, and that's George Lucas's screenwriting. I was talking to a coworker at work about this, and it was just like, he has I think Lucas has always had like really good macro ideas, but when like he has hard trouble with executing them on certain levels.
There's some people
Like-
sit there and say that his scripts are first and maybe second drafts that need to be worked out. The dialogue needs to be reworked a little bit to sound more natural as a third or fourth draft.
Yeah.
I'm glad one of the first things you brought up was George Lucas, because I wanted to ask everybody this. Out of the whole essential Southern California group that he came out of, Ford Coppola, De Palma, Lucas, is it safe to say after some of the screenwritings and the screenplays he's had, he's probably the weaker of the 3 and 4? But his you don't think he's the weakest of the 3?
No, because I don't. Well, you got to throw Spielberg in there as well, and with Spielberg and Lucas, a lot of their ideas are shared, so therefore they share common trophies, and so therefore I look at them. When they did the Indiana Jones trilogy, they did certain. Spielberg's the top dog in the game because of all the stuff he helped produce and create. But when it comes down to it, Ford Coppola, he had the Godfather series. Don't get me wrong, Godfather is a big series, but Star Wars changed the culture.
I'm not talking about just Star Wars in general. I know he's out of everybody, he's the one who cashed in on one sci-fi movie going and making billions. But I'm just talking about screenplay and everything he's
hold on.
Scripts that he's produced. I feel like his scripts are a real weaker compared to the other 3.
I'll agree with you there.
I'm just talking about scripts and screenplays.
But if you're talking about just like on a general basis idea of who had the obviously who cashed in the most.
No. I'm not talking about cashing in. I'm talking about just screenplay and script. Yes.
Yeah.
But hold on, you got to think about it like this, okay? Supposedly he's got 12 episodes in the chamber, right? It was supposed to be 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth, right? The thing is look at 1 through 6 and then 7, 8, 9. Even to the biggest company as far as movies go right now, you give it to them, they flop harder than LeBron James. Okay. That says something in my opinion. That says something because even though, yes, all 3 made money. Yes, all 3 are still big. Everybody complains about 8, 9, 2. Those are the 3 that everybody complains about the most, especially 8 and 9. 8, it made no damn sense. What the hell are we doing here? 9, what are you doing? Bringing all this and, kind of thing. My thing is I don't think he's as weak as people think. I don't think he's stronger than them. Don't get me wrong. Out of that group, I'll give you that.
I'll agree.
That's a hardcore group, though.
I'll agree with Juan that he does have a lot of good ideas that later get taken by people and created. That's why they have writing partners like Lawrence Kasdan and stuff like that. And they have their people that they tell their ideas to. And there's one dude named David Kemp. He helped with the Jurassic Parks. He's helped with some of the Indiana Jones. And they just go away. They take a tape recorder, whoever is working with, let's say Steven, George, and the screenwriter. They sit in a room together. They just hash out ideas, and then They kind of tell things how they want to go, and then the screenwriter goes away for a couple of days, comes back, and there's their ideas as a script.
Because I mean, I just I don't necessarily think it's 100% just him, just because, like I said, he had an idea that was born, and eventually it took off like a rocket. He took a 14, 15-year break in between 6 and 1, somewhere in that area, and came back, still hitting hard as Mike Tyson. But then, you take what
Would you guys agree that probably 3 is probably the best of the prequels?
Oh
It
yeah,
is.
for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's the most streamlined because he knew what he wanted to do there. In the first one, he kind of had to set up things, and there's a lot of setup, exposition. Here's this character, here's that character. Part 2 is they always had trouble with the middle chapter, and he fumbled the love story. Like if I was Natalie Portman and I was talking to Anakin, I would start seeing red flags everywhere. I'd be like, there is no way in hell this dude just straight up told me he killed the children of Tusken Raiders. He killed the women. He killed everyone. And then he sits there and just whines about it like nothing happened. And it's like, I love you, Annie. I'm like, no. This dude is a straight up psychotic murderer. I'm out. Seriously. But would you, as a person, let's sit there and say, the three of you, you're falling in love with somebody, and they come to you and tell you they murdered an entire village.
What'd the village do to you?
I think the biggest problem is that I get this franchise particularly has always been based off a 3 film. It's always been, you have the original trilogy, you have the prequel trilogy, you have the sequel trilogy. The problem is that I feel like, especially with the prequel, you don't really need 3 films to tell the story. You could really divide this up into 2 movies, honestly. Just cut out the Attack of the Clones part and then go straight into. I disagree with
you there. I think they could have started out as Anakin becoming, them finding Anakin early on as a child. Skip ahead a few years. In the same movie, we see the Attack of the Clones happen. Second movie, we see the actual Clone Wars, and then the damage that the Clone Wars did to him and his psyche turns him into Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Because essentially this is a space opera about love, and I mean a love story for that matter. And this is number 2, at least, is where the love story starts. So I mean, you can't really necessarily. Yes, 1, they kind of see each other, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, she's an angel." Yeah, stuff like that. But she's like 18, 19, looking at this 10-year-old like.
Actually, in the original Star Wars Episode 1, she's 14 years old and he's 9.
Okay, so this 14-year-old looking at this 9-year-old and is like, "Whoa, so sweet, cool," and all that. Now they're grown. He's full grown, and she's like, "Oh shit, well."
In our galaxy, you're legal now too.
I do think that if you want to go ahead and jump into the movie itself, I think that this movie does do a great job, the emotional depth of the story and how eventually we get to where we get.
Oh, yeah.
I do think George Lucas did do an excellent job with that. Essentially, like, you still have the kind of like the brotherhood of Obi-Wan and Anakin until it slowly just dies into what it becomes by the end of the movie.
I wish we would have got more adventures with them on screen together, because the second one, they split them up. They had no adventures together except the car ride through the, not Camino, is it? Not no, that's through the
Geonosis.
No, that I'm talking about when they were driving the speeders through the city trying to go out
Coruscant.
Yeah,
that's Coruscant.
And they end up in the CD nightlife. That's their only adventure together until we get the episode, and then they have the little lightsaber battle.
Bless you.
I wanted what they're talking about. They're talking about all these different adventures. I wanted to see those, but then in episode 3, we finally get to see that adventure. They go on an adventure together, and it starts off that way. Here's them on an adventure to save the Chancellor.
Yeah,
You know,
but
something
see,
we've
the one starts it all off because literally the final battle is literally, and I mean, even knowing what 4 entails, what the original Star Wars movie entails and all that stuff, and later on finding out who he is and all this stuff, seeing 1 and having it called Duel of the Fates is a reason for that, because Anakin got a brother, not a father. You know, he looked at Qui-Gon as that possibility of a father. He looked at Obi-Wan as slightly older brother.
a snickering
And-
brother that's always putting him down. It's never good enough for my brother.
And that's the thing, you know, he got the older brother who's perfect and good at everything, and he sees he's just this badass dude, and he's like, I got to be better than that. You know, it would have gone a whole different way if it was Obi-Wan who got killed instead of Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon raised him. On top of that, how Qui-Gon had
I have a small debate real quick. Okay, let's sit there and we're skipping ahead pretty deeply into the movie, but let's sit there and say, what if instead of Obi-Wan and Anakin facing off against each other, Yoda went and took on Anakin, and Obi-Wan took on the Chancellor? Do you think there would have been any difference or a different outcome in this situation?
I don't think it would have had different outcome, but for the sake of if we know then what we would have known now, I would have liked to see that, just because, you know, episode 4, you know, you had, it's really hard to put that if you don't bring in the Disney Plus show.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the Disney Plus show, I think you leave it the way it is. But if we knew we were going the route of the Disney Plus show, I would have liked to see that flip. But out of everything, one of the main scenes that I think just needs to have a little bit more limelight on it is Anakin killing Christopher Lee's character.
Yeah, because that's the first sign of the darkness.
But it's just
brewing.
But it's not only the first sign of the darkness, though, but it shows you how much powerful Anakin had become in between the second movie and this movie, and it's because you see them. Yeah, you see them go at it for the first time in the second movie. And if you guys want to hear us talk about all the other episodes, go back and check them out in the archives at Cinemen Movie Podcast on Podbean and Spotify. But it completely just chases and takes away any kind of like what was what I'm looking for? Yeah, any kind of dreading on Anakin's part because he just.
Yeah, the last time he fought him, it took Obi-Wan and him, and he lost an arm, and he got his ass handed to him like big time.
And I think the scene where he kills Dooku, or not Dooku, well, yeah, Dooku. The scene where he kills Dooku is just the right amount of time. I don't think it needed to be any longer. I don't think it needed to be any shorter. It proves just how quick of a kill that should have been.
What I honestly love about that scene is just there's 3 looks that are displayed. Is that Christopher Lee looking up at Anakin, kind of like, please don't, and then you hear the do it, and he looks over at the Emperor, and he's like, holy shit, I've been deceived and I've been played. And then it's like, he's done. That's like, oh, wow, yeah.
I'm going to interject on that, though, because I almost think that Dooku was willing to die for Anakin to be brought to the dark side, because Dooku knew that there needed to be a new apprentice, and he figured Anakin would be the new apprentice. Not only that, but whenever Palpatine said that, or Sidious, whatever, said that, he was like, okay, so we're going through with this. Okay, he looks back at Anakin and he's like, does he have the balls to do this? Is he able to transfer, and all that? I don't think, I'm not necessarily saying that Anakin didn't get more powerful in between, Attack and Revenge. But the thing is I think that Dooku didn't take it easy, but did intend to die in that battle or in that saber fight. So
that makes sense. Like he's got to sacrifice himself for another one to be brought up.
Well, exactly, because with the Sith, there is always a law of 2.
I disagree on that. The reason why I disagree is because just how selfless and he want to I've read some of the supplemental material, but that's non that's what I mean. But Dooku was very power hungry and very much so wanted to be the man. At the end of the day, whenever the Empire was bored and ready, he wanted to be the one standing there. That's
right.
One of the
But
he just got deceived.
But was he able to go ahead and take Palpatine out? That's the big thing, and I don't think he thought he was, because I think he's seen how powerful Palpatine at that time was. Not only that, but it was before he was even weakened by the Force lightning. So
George Lucas stated that that's not, he wasn't weakened by that. That's his true appearance.
Right. His facade was taken out.
Yeah. That's what dude, after reading this, I'll watch the movie, and then this is one of those movies that I sat there and listened to the commentary, and he sat there like, yeah, whenever the Force lightning, you think it's being hurting him and everything, but it's not. It's just his true form being coming through. I'm like, whoa, okay.
This is one of those movies, if I had to nitpick about, Zach, if you want to throw some in there too, because we didn't really talk about much nitpicks. Excuse me. It's all the CGI usage that just like completely stands out above the rest. And it's like, man, I remember Star Wars movies back in the day where you had like 50, 60 stuntmen working as a stormtrooper. And it's like all the stormtroopers or, extra troopers in this movie, you can definitely tell are just like override of CGI. And then the second one was filled with so much love lost and politics, like, Palpatine being involved in the politics. I felt like I wanted to stay away from that completely in this movie. And rewatching it today for this movie, I'm like, this movie could have been easily trimmed down from 220 to about 2 hours with I really wanted them to stay away from the chancellors, the back and forth, the holding. Like, I really just wanted the meat and potatoes of the action, getting to the dark side, killing the younglings, and then, I wanted more Natalie Portman.
Well, the Natalie Portman stuff was left on the cutting room floor because he thought it wasted time because it was the birth of the Resistance. There's a good 3-4 different scenes that he cut out that was probably about 3 minutes in length with all those scenes combined that were in the movie of Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and Padme starting the Resistance. They were and they're on the Blu-rays.
But see, at the same time, you have to show a bit of those the Senate hearings, because it shows how weak and how weak-minded all of that was, and it shows how much influence in the second and the third movie he had over everybody. Not only that, but who knows how much he was using the Force over everything.
Well, in the first movie, if you pay attention to the last Chancellor they had, Chancellor Valorum, they sat there and as soon as there was one sign of trouble, they instantly went after his ass. But here is a guy that has been in office for, at this point, decades, and he now has become an emperor. And they're like, yes, become emperor. You're the greatest. And it's like, whoa, what happened? What happened?
Yeah, no faith in Valorum. And that's the thing. It's a duel of fates in several ways. But
Zach, what about you? Politic-wise, do you think? What did you like? What did you dislike about some of the scenes?
I think with this prequel trilogy, I've never liked the C-SPAN with monsters political debates throughout the series. That just, I feel like, to me, that was never what Star Wars was about, and I feel like that's just like, especially for younger audience members, that's just way over their head, like talking about trade routes and tariffs and.
Well, I think he had to sit there and be like, well, what caused the war? And he had to come up with an idea of what caused this all to become Star Wars.
Yeah, but,
because you're saying just kids. Sorry. This isn't just for kids, dude. Star Wars was for kids back in the 70s. And now they're grown adults bringing their kids to it.
But but the thing is like, you want like a cooler explanation of why the Clone Wars started, other than just, we, couldn't come to an agreement on something. It's like, really? That's like the best you can come up with?
Don't get me wrong,
Especially as
that's
the
a lot of
creator of
real
the
life
series.
stuff, though.
That is how war starts today.
It's a real life thing.
I definitely agreed that the start and the way that the Clone Wars started was lame as hell. I watched about half of the Clone Wars TV show, and that, like I said, that should have been what some of the second movie was.
Yeah,
Because that was a far more interesting concept, and they could have fell in love. You know, they could have been like, all right, Padme and Anakin get crash land on this war torn planet, and they have to go across this planet, and they have to help each other get across this planet that's war torn, and there's danger around every corner, and that's how they fall in love, because what they fall in love through a what do they call it, a traumatic bond is how they a trauma bond.
that would make a lot more sense than them rolling down a hill full of lilies and saying horrible dialogue. You know?
But I mean,
Well, he falls in love with her as a child, though, in the first one.
Right.
So
But,
he's enamored from the beginning with one of the first people who shows him kindness other than his mother. Especially, he was a slave in an extremely hot world.
And see, that's exactly what the therapist says in Sopranos with Tony. Hold on a second. You say that, but it's real common about Tony and his mom, and you have to watch it. But yeah, Anakin's the first person who shows him any kind of like love and intimacy other than his mom, and in the Sopranos, it's the same thing.
If James Gandolfini just walked on set with the lightsaber, would that just make this movie 10 times better?
Hey, I told you guys a few weeks ago. I think I just told Zach. I don't know if James Gandolfini was still alive. Colin Farrell would not have any responsibilities as the Penguin in the Batman series.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, as far as like with the love story, I mean, you could go all kinds of ways. I mean, you could have gone a hell of a lot more perverted. You could have gone a hell of a lot more, romantical.
I think the love story between the two was okay.
It was hokey as hell to me. Like I said, once he sat there and said, "I killed them all, even the younglings," I'm like, "Whoa, bro!" No,
we could have got a cringy Bella and Edward kind of story too, though.
And then not only that, but look at real life. How many women will go ahead and go towards, talk to murderers, rapists, and pedos
I'll keep my mouth
prison.
shut on that one. I'll keep my mouth shut on that one.
I mean, it's a real thing.
He was using the
pen pal the shit out of it.
He was using the Force.
What are some of the lines in this movie that are just absolutely cringe? Like the worst line ever in any of the Star Wars movie ever is Samuel L. Jackson's reading after Anakin tells him that Chancellor Palpatine's a Sith Lord. He's like, "A Sith Lord?"
No.
Oh God! I'm like, oh God! Oh.
No, the worst one.
This motherfucker's a Sith Lord?
No, the worst one, even in 2005 when I originally saw this movie, the one that still gets to me is, "What have I done?" And it's still bad today.
I even cringe when I hear that, "I'm so in love with you because you're beautiful. I'm only beautiful because you love me." And I'm like,
She's using the eye of the beholder shit.
I'm just sitting there looking like, "You're Natalie Portman. You're hot as hell." Don't even give me that.
But again, that's not their fault. That's George Lucas and his brilliant writing scheme.
Well, it's also it all falls on George Lucas and the fact that you really you're talking about you had plenty of time to film this movie. You couldn't take one or two more takes of that. What are we doing? I felt my biggest nitpick of the movie is that, yes, I still think this is a good movie, but this should have been like a great movie, like up there with like some of the best, up there with Empire and everything else. You know what I mean?
Some of those line deliveries was like you said, is this the best take you guys done?
Yeah.
It's like in the first one, the episode 1, the yippee. I'm like, oh God, we needed that.
I think we can all agree that the best dialogue and delivers from any Star Wars movie is The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the reading, the writing, and if you look at that movie, who did not direct it and who didn't do a majority of the writing?
Lawrence Kasdan had a lot to do with that.
George Lucas didn't hardly do anything with that movie.
I still think Force Awakens is still pretty good 10 years later.
Awakens is.
Oh yeah, it's good, but it's not the best.
But well,
In
they
your,
shit
in
their
your
pants
head,
after.
no.
What's everybody's opinion on the final battles? You know, you
The
have
final,
Yoda and the
like,
Senate,
okay, so
Sidious, and then you have Anakin and Obi-Wan.
you say what you will about the prequels, you say what you will about the sequel and the original trilogy. You still have to admit that George Lucas still created two of the most iconic scenes in Star Wars: the Duel of the Fates and Phantom of the Menace, and Obi-Wan and Anakin and Revenge of the Sith. Those are still the most two iconic sequences in Star Wars.
I like the Yoda Sidious fight too, when the Sidious is sitting there, because his entire time he's just laughing his ass off maniacally, throwing Senate seats at Yoda, and Yoda's like, I can't get out of the way. What do I do? And he's just up there laughing like this is a big joke to him.
And I think
Because
that's
it is.
underrated. I think
This
the
is
Yoda versus
Yoda.
Palpatine is underrated. I don't think
This
that one
is
gets enough credit.
Yoda, supposedly Yoda, the best Jedi ever, and he's just playing games with him. You're like, what? How?
And that's the thing, because he comes in 2 at the final scene, or at the final fight, and you're just like, oh shit, he's going against Dooku. This is about to get hardcore, and he half-ass kicks his ass. Like, he makes him run off.
It was an even fight all the way because they both used their lightsabers. They couldn't get nowhere. Then they had to use the Force against each other, and the only way Dooku could get away was because he broke something and hovered it over Anakin and Obi-Wan's head and said, either you come and get me or I drop this on them. And so Yoda was like, ugh.
But I mean, at the same time, it just shows A, kind of like Zach said, how underrated Palpatine is, and B, kind of how weak Yoda was. Yes, he's 900 plus years old, but at the same time, how weak he was.
It is kind of weak, though, that out of 9 movies, out of 9 Star Wars movies, we got 2 Palpatine fights.
I do enjoy rewatching this one. The battle between Anakin and Vader is definitely superb. I personally think, just because of the story behind it and the emotion, I think it's better than Duel of the Fates in Episode 1. Yeah. And you also see, how powerful Darth is in this movie, but Obi-Wan is just still head and shoulders above him, and the hatred and the just not being headstrong, like, is overall what puts Darth down.
It's also that moment. It's the climax of the entire, like, at least that prequel trilogy of these two people these two brothers that love each other. They have to essentially destroy each other. Who their previous selves were, essentially.
Well, it's not that it puts him down. I don't think it puts Anakin down. It puts Obi-Wan up that much, because Obi-Wan has to do what he is not wanting to do at all. Anakin has to go through the person he least wants to go through and all that. But at the same time, it just shows you how much Obi-Wan knew Anakin more than anything. Not only that, but it did show you additionally how much Anakin watched Obi-Wan.
And if it wasn't...
The legend of that jump over Maul is the only reason Anakin tried that on the high ground. He was like, you got the high ground, bitch. You did this. You did this. Like 15 years ago, bro. I got this.
But it's not like
you.
But it's not like Anakin saw that jump against Darth Maul.
No, but think about it.
I guarantee it was probably talked about and explained. Like
it was shown on the highlight reel during lunchtime.
Right, they had the holograms. Like, here's my fight with Darth Maul. Hey man, it's Star Wars. In our world today, we have security cameras everywhere. Who's to say they didn't have security cameras watching the Darth Maul? Like the Nabooians be selling Darth Maul. Like seriously, they be selling videotapes like Jedi's Unchained. Watch how the battle was won.
Hey, you want to see this shit, bro? He had the high ground, and he said, fuck your shit. And he sliced him in half, bro. And then he fell in like a bitch. And no, 100% though. I mean, it was probably talked about hardcore, gossiped for years. Obi-Wan was probably looked at like he was the god over there.
It's the holdover mover.
Because you've got Mace Windu, you've got Yoda, and they're looked at as number 1 and number 2, but they ain't killed a Sith. They ain't done this shit. They didn't flip over the motherfucker, revenge their master, and kill this dude. He did that. So I mean, not Kit Fisto, not all these people. So it's just like,
isn't it funny though that the one person that Darth or Anakin was worried about passing, which was Padme, like she eventually died because he like Ike Turner choked her, and like she just like.
Well,
honestly,
I thought the way I read that scene was that in order for Darth Vader to survive, because they were intercutting, in order for Darth Vader to live, he had to take her life force, and that's why she died.
Exactly.
That's my headcanon. That's my headcanon. I'm sorry.
Same.
They watched an 8-hour making of documentary about Revenge of the Sith.
I was about to say, I'll even believe that Palpatine was siphoning it off to him.
Oh, like the witch in Hocus Pocus.
Well, in later comic books, it was explained in later comic books, and these are considered canon by Lucasfilm. So if you read these, they are canon. Is that Count Darth Sidious manipulated the midichlorians and got Shmi pregnant with Anakin?
He said,
"Oh wow,
yeah,
that is legit canon."
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, where does Shmi and Captain Hook come into all this?
Because Shmi is Anakin's mom.
I understand.
Captain Hook, who the fuck?
Shmi from Captain Hook. Come on.
Shmi's me.
Oh. All right, Mario. But so I mean,
there's our Hook episode. We don't have to do Hook now.
I love Hook.
There's a lot of different things that go into this, and Star Wars is one of the fandoms with the deepest lore, literally.
I will agree with you, Jay. I mean, I think that's one of the most powerful things about the movie is that in order for Darth Vader to be born, Padme has to die, essentially. Like, that's the whole setup for that. And then
because
I still think that it's still an iconic scene when Darth Vader takes his first breath of life, essentially. You see,
his
like,
first words are, his no.
And then Lucas are doing that, yeah.
We got to done out with that, with that. He can sit there and just sit there and rage. He could have just and raged in the room, and the room could have exploded around him, and he could have just had more cackling from the Emperor. That would have been better, but
well, and she had to die because she was the only thing that was keeping him to the light side, because he felt everybody in the Jedi Temple was like, yeah, fuck you, bro. The one thing that kept him or anchored him was Padme. So Sidious was like, this bitch got to go.
Weirdly, if you sit there and pay attention to the movie, Anakin got turned to the dark side kind of weakly, man. Like, he was promised, the entire time, Darth Sidious is all like, I can help you save Padme. I can make the ones you love not die, and all this and that. Like, he says this to him multiple times. And then after he kills Mace Windu, he's like, we will find out together how to do it. I'm like, what a dick move. He straight up the entire time said he can do it. He knew how to do it. And then in this moment, he finally got this kid to turn and become, and it was just like, what the hell?
I'm really surprised.
It all led back to Shmi, just because Shmi died, that he was afraid to lose anybody else. And it, ties in with the first person that showed him, any kind of kindness and all that stuff. And I mean, it's just a revolving door with each other's, things.
I still 20 years on, I still like the conversation between Palpatine and Anakin about Darth Plagueis. I'm surprised they haven't made a movie about that yet, to be completely honest.
I there for a while, I thought they were going to include him in some of the newer prequel stuff that they were going to make. They were making for Disney Plus and everything, but they didn't. So maybe one day, because a lot of fans do want a Darth Plagueis story, and they want a Darth Bane story,
and Darth Revan for that matter. Because I mean, isn't Revan the one they want to Keanu to play? I'm
not quite sure, but I know
it's
they
have Bane or Revan.
I know they have quite a few Darths out there, and so they even have a Darth Maul show they're wanting to do.
Well, yeah, because I mean that actor, the voice actor with the Clone Wars is he's a bad dude in that.
Well,
And
Ray
he
Parker.
knows
So-
Ray Parker's already coming back.
So
right, but the
with
voice actors.
would Darth Plagueis be pre-original series, post-original series? And where did
free?
and where the hell did Snoke come from all this? That guy.
He was a clone.
Yeah.
That was it. He was a
Plagueis was
mystery box.
Sidious's
He was one
master.
of J.J. Abrams' mystery boxes.
Now, after today's episode, we have done talked all 11 Star Wars films, including Solo and Rogue One.
Yep.
But out of the original 9 movies, if you guys could pick one to have a redo conversation about, which one deserves it?
Empire.
If Craig was here, it'd be Last Jedi, so we could just like complain all over again about it.
Original, like Star Wars.
I'd say probably Rise of Skywalker because I've really like gone down on that movie since that came out. I've not had a good like
Everybody has
memories of that since.
I'm Rey Skywalker.
Not even that. It's just I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about like that whole trilogy Force Awakens is a great setup, and then you bring in Rian Johnson, and then it just goes off the rails essentially.
Shits itself, 100%. There's
But
no
I'm down
reason
for
it should.
Empire. We got one for Rise of Skywalker, one for what you have, E?
Star Wars, the original Star Wars.
Original Star Wars. What do you got? One.
I would probably go with Empire.
We're gonna have to put just the name in a hat and pull one.
Yeah.
But I mean, like John Boyega said, with Finn, after 7, they didn't know what the fuck he said specifically, with Finn, they knew fuck all.
Oh,
He should have been a Jedi. He should have been seriously.
He should have been the Jedi. Rey should have been the one taking over Han's spot.
Oh,
Training under Han.
They both could. They both could have been Jedi. It's just weird that because it's supposed to be the new the Force Awakens. With the Force Awakens, you have a new group of Jedi's that need training. And what's better to go find? The MacGuffin could be. We could still be going and looking for Luke, but you have all these Force sensitive people looking for training.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like the kid in 8. They shown him kind of playing with the Force a little bit, but don't know what happened to that.
Supposedly, that's what the Daisy Ridley trilogy, or at least her one and done movie. They're thinking trilogy, but it could just be one and done, like a new Jedi Order thing. Like she's the one that starts it off.
Technically, the next movie that's going to be released is Mandalorian and Grogu. That's summer of next year. And then we have the Sean Levy, Ryan Reynolds movie. Not Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, Star Wars Starfighter is coming out, I think, the next year, 2027.
But
So
none of these are going to be part of the episodic movies, though, right?
No, these are just like spin-offs or
Because
jumping
They
off
are
from like
canon.
Disney Plus shows.
They are canon, but they're not a part of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
man,
I think
how-
it's
Now, from what I've heard, some of the best Star Wars out there right now, and I have yet to watch it, is season 1 and 2 of Andor. They said that
that's pretty good.
it's gotten higher ratings than Star Wars. The actual
Wow.
Star Wars movies, like the actual episodes, they said it's one of the best shows, not just Star Wars, the best shows on television right now.
Yeah, I heard
'Cause, I mean-
Andor is really good.
Until the Bear season 4 comes out.
Oof.
with Luke, don't get me wrong, like I think they shit the bed with Luke to a big degree, because how he came in Mandalorian versus how he came in episode 8, and I mean, I get hardcore different life path at the time, but dude, it just, I don't know.
I just think, and we got to go to favorite scene. I just think, in my opinion, in order for Star Wars to keep going, we got to get away from the Skywalker saga. We got to do something new.
I mean, that's fair, but
what we
everything
need to do
new.
is get away from the agenda-driven drivel that they try to sit
Well,
there and put out as Star
that's
Wars.
that's another conversation, but yeah.
And they need to sit there and focus. It's a woman. Who cares if it's a woman? We had Princess Leia. We don't care. As a Star Wars fan, we don't care about what the gender of these characters are, what they look like. Are they written good? Are they a good person? Are they a bad person? How are we supposed to feel about them? Are they stupid because they don't do dumb things because you write them to do dumb things? You know?
Yeah.
Think more. That's
Like,
why
yeah.
the original Star Wars trilogy is considered a classic, because those were well-written movies. And even back when the original prequels came out, people bitched and moaned about how they were not well-written.
Yeah. It's funny, people like looking back as like it's all like white people and aliens in the first Star Wars, and then Lando comes on screen in Empire, like, oh, we can do that. That's a thing in Star Wars. If you really think about it, I mean, you know, something else I want to bring up real quick is that, like, and this is interesting. I never thought about this, but my coworker that I was talking to today, they said, you realize there is no mention of Padme in the original trilogy, like Luke and Leia's mother. Like, I think there's a line saying that Leia said that she was the most beautiful woman, but that technically wasn't Padme.
She remembers her mother, who's kinder. So yeah, I remember that line.
Yeah,
but Padme is never mentioned once. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
the 50th anniversary of Star Wars will get Luke or Leia sit there goes, I found out her name was Padme, and we were like, oh. Then Jar Jar Binks walks by in the background. We're like, come on.
The Lucas cut, yep.
Hey, I'm still looking for Darth Jar Jar.
Oh,
still looking for that shit. Okay.
He was always there.
I thought that was Finn.
Anytime you sit there and listen to the breathing in the credits, that's Darth Jar Jar. He's always paying attention to the background. Because in all the Star Wars movies, at the end of part 1, 2, and 3, they have Darth Vader breathing. And so just make a new headcanon. It's Darth Jar Jar watching over to make sure his plan goes accordingly so the Empire wins.
Yeah. That was the theory that going into Rise of Skywalker. What if it's like Darth Jar Jar Binks was behind the whole thing? The whole setup.
You know what? It would have been a hell of a lot better, and it probably would have made more sense. Misa gonna kill you all now. We're like, hell yeah, I can get behind this.
Like, instead of Snoke, Jar Jar Binks just comes up, and they're like, oh, you know, and he's talking to him, and then all of a sudden, fucking Red Blade comes out, and they're like, oh shit, Misa don't need the Force to jump. Like, oh fuck.
He tells Snoke not to forget the cannolis.
Oh, fuck.
While he's sitting there watching The Sopranos.
Speaking of, that would be a favorite scene. I'll go real quick. Favorite scene: killing of Dooku, and the classic battle at the end where you finally get to see Vader and all the intuitions come true.
Yep.
Jay?
I absolutely enjoy the end battle. It's pretty cool. Sometimes it does go a little bit too long. I do find it cool being a wrestling fan. They have a drop kick in there. I thought that was always pretty cool that they just drop kick each other. I'm like, right on. Hell yeah. Ain't got nothing better to do. Just drop kick somebody. Even in the galaxy far, far away, they have wrestling. And I don't know.
WWE Star Wars edition.
And then I do enjoy Anakin trying to land the big ship at the beginning. The entire opening space battle, for one, is just breathtaking. I've seen that on the big screen 6 times, and I was in awe every time.
Zach?
Yeah, the climactic fight, Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and then intertwined cut with Yoda versus Sidious is top 30, 40 minutes, however long that sequence is. To go away from that, I'd have to say that the Darth Plagueis scene with when they're discussing that, I thought that was kind of a cool mythology that I think it in the right hands could be a really interesting movie. So even though they basically say what exactly happens to him, but you know, it's very much like a a prologue to what Anakin is fighting for, which is saving Padme's life, but it ultimately like cost him everything.
But it also comes full circle. It also implants the idea of you, the viewer, as well, that later on that Darth Vader does in fact kill his mentor.
Yeah.
I hate that I didn't get that poster. They were out the time I was able to go back and get that.
They didn't have any more of these? Did you get one, Johnny?
No.
Oh. Dude, like they had like a bunch of these when I went and saw the movie. By the time I got out, they were gone. Like non-existent.
Ed?
So I mean, everybody knows the classic battle. Ending battle is an amazing.
We'll say it again.
To me, it's how deep both of them are with the fighting style. Because Hayden and Ewan knew those parts that was choreographed, but they had to slow them down for that battle legitimately. Because they had rehearsed and practiced and knew those two, so damn well. But if I had to go for anything else, to me, Hello There is just the best right there. That is prime. This movie is prime Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like this is all about how how good he was in the end of his and Anakin's cycle of life together. And whenever he takes on Grievous, as well as Order 66 eventually, that is part of what makes Obi-Wan a legend. And at the same time, Order 66 itself is a huge thing because you get to see so many different worlds that at first we didn't get to see. Like we got to see the world of Kashyyyk, different little snippets like that. I mean, you got to see so many of the Jedi masters, the council, and all that fall on all of these different planets, that the only other ways you could go into that is if you watched the Clone Wars TV series, or if you played the Revenge of the Sith video game, because there was a lot of them on there. Exactly.
I got on Xbox. It was fun.
I mean, don't get me wrong, tons of fun on that. You got to go on a lot of adventures as different characters, and
I played the Legos too.
Yep. So I mean, there's it was cool canonically and in the movie to get to see those straight out.
You know what I just now noticed? I'm so used to watching the movies from episode 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. That if you sit there and honestly watch them 1 through 9, that every 3 movies, the older generation, the older cast introduces a new cast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, I just blew my mind. I'm like, huh.
Yeah. But yeah, those would be my 3 favorite
boy.
things.
If you watch him from 1 to 3 or 1 on, Luke is the new boy in part 4. Just sit there and think. One of our favorite characters growing up is Luke Skywalker because you know who he is and everything. There's going to be kids out there that are like, Luke Skywalker's a bitch. Nowadays because of they watched him in a completely different random order than we did.
Well, and I mean, you've got to think, because 4, 5, and 6, the fights were so much slower and so much lighter, for that matter, because they weren't sure on how the integrity of the Greyflex and other sabers were. They weren't sure on how the props would hold up, and then in the prequel, it was balls to the wall fast. So I mean, it was one of those things to where it
starts with the bang and kind of goes into a whimper back into a bang. That's how the trilogy or the saga is: a bang into a whimper into a. Because if you sit there, like you said, if you sit there looking at it from a bombastic point of view, there's a lot of action in the first, the prequel. There's a lot of action in the sequels, and then the second one, there's like, what the hell is this? They talk a lot.
Well, not only that, but in the sequels, 7, 8, 9, it's imprecise. It's highly, emotional fighting versus precise or precision fighting in 1, 2, and 3. To where 4, 5, and 6 are we're last of our kind. So, I need to survive this, or I'm the head of the rebellion. I'm the spear point. I have to defeat them. But he's my father. I have to get him back.
Speaking of surviving, if you guys want to hear us talk about any of those Star Wars movies, go check out the archives in Spotify and Podbean, and just look us up. You can find out all the episodes, including last week where we talked about Thunderbolts. Star rating before we talk about June. I'm gonna go real quick. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5 for me as well.
Zach?
I'm gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Ed?
5.
Next week, if you guys want to know and let us know your Star Wars ratings, send us an email. CINEMEN921 cinemen921@gmail.com, or you guys can also just hit us up on the social media in any of those links where you see us post about the new episode. It is 8 p.m. Central Time. That episode will be uploaded to Spotify, Podbean, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts by 9 p.m. Central Time. Next week, Zach, what do we got going on next week?
Next week, Monday is Memorial Day, so we're going to kill 2 birds with one stone. We're going to talk a war movie, and we're talking Matthew McConaughey with the 25th anniversary of U-571. I've never seen this movie, so it'll be a new watch for me.
And then we kick June off with a bang. Summer is officially started. And what are we talking about in June?
We're starting June off with a bang, like you said. The summer movie season is upon us. We're talking Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Mission Impossible! Yay!
June 10th. Sorry. We're going back to Matthew McConaughey for his first performance ever with Dazed and Confused, Richard Linklater's film. So,
Zach, have you ever seen that one?
I have, yes. It's been a while, but I'm looking forward to rewatching it.
It's top-notch cast.
Okay. June 17th, we're talking about what'd you say, the 30th anniversary of Batman?
30th. 30.
Batman, first time watch, so
nice. And also, just to let you guys know, we will be bringing back the top 5 in honor of Mr. Val Kilmer. We'll be talking our top 5 Val Kilmer movies that specific Tuesday when we talk Batman Forever.
Yep. And then we end the month June 24th, which I think all of us are really looking forward to a new theatrical release of 28 Years Later.
See, I need to rewatch the first 2, so I will have to prepare for part 3. And those are hard as hell to find.
It's going to be a packed month, and July is even going to be bigger, so look out for that.
Oh man, July is going to be a monster. If you guys,
kaiju.
It is. If you guys are not going to the theater in July,
well, get ready.
Yeah, get ready, because that's all our conversation pieces are going to be about. There's just one new movie after another. Jurassic Park, Superman, Fantastic Four, Happy Gilmore 2, and I know I'm forgetting another one. So it's going to be a huge month.
We'll get some McConaughey in there as well. So
yeah. Angels in the Outfield.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
in the outfield.
That's what we're starting July off with. So other than that, guys, before we head on to the last episode for Memorial Day, do you guys have any things you want to add to today's episode?
May the force be with you always.
There you go.
There you go. May the force be with y'all. We'll see you next week for another new episode as we talk Memorial Day Tuesday for U-571. Our Matthew McConaughey continues on a new episode of the Cinemen Movie Podcast.